Welcome class to your lecture video for Chapter 4, Adding Images. In Chapter 4, we're going to discuss insert and align images using CSS, enhance an image and use alternate text, insert a background image and perform site maintenance, add graphic enhancements, and use coding tools to view and edit rules. So we'll begin in Lesson 1, inserting and aligning images using CSS. So when you choose your graphics that you want to add to your web pages, it's important that you understand appropriate file formats. You also want to keep in mind the different types of devices that your visitors are going to use to view your pages, such as a smartphone, tablets, and even your desktops. The three primary graphic file formats that are used on web pages are GIF, some people pronounce that GIF, but it's Graphics Interchange Format, JPEG, JPEG or JPG, Joint Photographic Experts Group, and PNG, Portable Network Graphics. GIF files or GIF files download quickly, making them ideal to use on web pages. They are, however, limited in the number of colors they represent. 256 colors is the amount of colors in a GIF file. GIF files also have the ability to show transparent areas, so you have opacity available to you in a GIF file. JPEG files can display many colors, 16.7 million colors, because they often contain many shades of the same color. Photographs are often saved in a JPEG format. JPEG formats do not support opacity or transparency. Files saved with the PNG format can display many colors. And they use various degrees of transparency called opacity. So we're talking the best of both. So GIF files have that opacity value, JPEG have the color value, and PNG here we have both. So the PNG format gives you greater color depth when designing for mobile devices as well. So whenever you can save in a PNG format, save it in a PNG format. When you add a graphic to a website, either through the Insert menu or through the Insert panel, Dreamweaver automatically adds it to the Assets panel. And the Assets panel displays all the assets, images, videos, and audio files in a website. If you do not see your Assets panel available to you on the right side of your screen, you want to go to the Window menu to pull up your Assets panel. In the Assets panel, there are 7 categories: images, colors, URLs, media, scripts, templates, and library. You can view assets in each category in 2 ways. You have the Site option and your Favorites option. So Site option versus your Favorites option. Favorites are what you have designated as your favorites. When you insert an image on a web page, you need to position it in relation to other page elements such as text or other images. Positioning an image is also called aligning an image, and you can add alignment alignment properties through CSS. As you create rules, remember the rules of inheritance. Remember that we defined everything to start with global, and then we go down to a media query for tablet, and then from there we have a media query for desktop. It's important for you to visualize how your images will look when displayed in multiple devices. We don't need to visualize, however. We can use Dreamweaver to show those in different displays, and we'll practice that in this video. Select images for responsive design. Avoid setting specific sizes for your image heights and widths on a page. Use percentages for image height or width properties to direct them to reduce or enlarge, and specify different images for each device. So let's look at pages 6 through 13, and let's just practice some of the things that I've already talked about. So on page 6, we're using a brand new data file, 4_1 HTML, and we're going to save this over our About Us page. So yes, we overwrite. If you get this JavaScript error, you want to just click OK, and then always no on update links. So now here's our new About Us page, and we'll continue with the directions. In number 3, it says to highlight welcome guests. Let me go ahead and get my properties inspector, dock it to the bottom here. Let me get it to dock. There we go. And then heading 1, or nope, heading 1. So welcome guests. Place the insertion point in number 4 on page 6 before when in the first paragraph. Switch to code view to place the insertion point before the paragraph. So we put our insertion point before the W, then we're either going to go to split view or code view, and make sure that our cursor is outside of the P tag. So the reason we want it to be outside of the P tag is to ensure that our global style, which we have yet to define, which is a class called image_float, works correctly. So make sure that your image tag does not appear in here, that it appears outside of the P tag. So then either using your insert menu or your insert panel, we're going to go ahead and insert an image. And I just want to double check to make sure that I'm in the Striped Umbrella site. Yep. Okay, so insert image, and we are going to go to our data files. We're going to find a file called club_house. Okay, so here's club_house. So when it inserts it in your code, just make sure that it's lying outside of that P tag. You can go ahead and enter in the alternate text right away if you want to, through the code view, or you can use your properties inspector to enter it in as well. Now if I click up here in my code view, now it adjusts that. Now I'm going to further go into the assets panel, and if you don't see your Clubhouse here, go ahead to the bottom right corner and click on refresh, and then you should see a refresh of Clubhouse. Now this is your assets panel. These are the categories on the side, the 7 categories. This is the site view of it, and this is the favorites view of it. So right now I don't have any favorites. If I was in colors and I needed something to be a favorite, I would right click on it, say add to favorites. The selected assets have been added to the site's favorite list. To view, we click on the favorites. So now I'm going to click on favorites, and now I see that that's my favorite. If I want to remove it, I can just right click on it and remove from favorites. Now I'm clicking on my images here. In order for me to see my site, I need to make sure that I click back to site. Actually, I was clicking on colors there. Okay. Page 8, create a global class selector for images. Okay, so we are going to be creating a class called image_float. Excuse me. So a class called image_float. And we're going to be setting it up for global styling. Okay, and we're also going to be looking at a tablet behind that. Then we're going to set up another class called float_right. Okay, so that's what we'll be working with, and I'll come back to that little document there. So in my CSS Designers panel, I want to be in SU Styles. It says number 2, select SU Styles, and then Global. So remember that the middle column right here, or the middle row, is our media queries. So this is for smartphones, our mobile side of things. This is tablets, and then this is our desktop. So I want to be on global, and I'm going to add a new selector. I'm going to call it period image_float. So remember, with classes we need to have that prefix of a period. And then I'm going to uncheck the show set so that I can see my categories and the properties I can add. I'm going to click on the layout button, and that is the first one. And I'm going to come down to the floating, and I'm going to click on None. Then I'll click on Show Set. Show Set shows me that that's the property that I set. So when I'm in a smartphone, it makes sense that I would not want to float text up around an image because I have a smaller display area. So, and I'll show you that in a second once we get things defined a little bit more. Okay, so for global, we're always going to have none, and that is for both of those classes that we'll define. Okay, page 10, create a tablet size selector for images. So now instead of being on global, I'm going to go to tablet and create, again, the same class, image float. And this one, I'm going to assign my layout of my float to be left. Now if I move my panel here, once I apply this here, the text should be floating up to the right of this image. So the image is to the left of the content. Okay, page 12 has us actually apply that, or maybe I skipped over this step for that. Nope. Yep, number 1 on page 12. So I'm going to select my image, and then I'm going to go to class, and I'm going to apply image float. So now I see that since I'm in not a mobile view, but in a tablet view or even a desktop view here, that my content floats up to the left. So let me take it down to a phone to show you that it does not float. Okay, there just isn't enough space for it. And even you know, depending on if they're in the orientation, let's see, orientation landscape. If they're in orientation landscape, then I have a wider view, so because then it will actually float for me. So it's all based on that media query on whether it'll be applied or not. So just in review, global has the image float of none, and in tablet, image float has a float of left. Okay, so I'm going to add that here. Global float of none, tablet float of left. Okay, and that is for image float. Okay, and I kind of went through the testing. Remember, we don't have the mobile buttons. Remember that you can add that QR code and then be able to preview it actually live in your device, and that's really handy. If you haven't set that up, just go ahead and click here and then get that QR code, okay, by your QR reader on your device, and then it will open up this page or whatever page you're working on in that device live. Now, just also with image underscore float being defined here, desktop automatically inherits that left property. So remember, it trickles down. So global, it was set at none. We redefined it to be left for tablet, and then there was nothing defined for desktop, so it inherited what was previously defined in tablet. Enhancing an image and using alternate text is lesson 2. So after you've placed an image on a web page, you have several options for improving its appearance. To make changes to the image itself, such as removing scratches from it or erasing parts of it, you'll need to use some sort of an external image editor, such as Fireworks or Adobe Photoshop. You can use Dreamweaver to enhance how images appear on a page by adding borders or what we call a frame to that image. You can also add a little bit of horizontal and vertical space so that our image isn't so crowded by the text sitting right next to it. So we're going to use CSS margin properties to do that horizontal and vertical space, and then we're going to add borders through CSS to add that frame. One of the easiest ways to make your web page viewer friendly and accessible is to use our alternate text. So we've done that already for our Clubhouse image. We've added in the alternate text. This just makes when a user comes to our web page, this text is actually read to them because they may be visually challenged and not be able to actually see that image with great clarity. So as the screen reader reads the page, it reads that alternate text. So make your alternate text really descriptive. I also suggest copying this alternate text into the title area because this becomes your little screen tip. So if I hover over the image, it's kind of like a tool tip that shows up. So screen readers are again read the alternate text and make it possible for viewers to have that image described to them. Pages 16 through 19. So we're going to add in some more visual enhancements to our image float class. So we'll start out with global, and we are going to add a border to image float. So we're going to uncheck the show set because we want to add more properties. We're going to click on the border category. We want to make sure that we're set on all. If I want to do top, right, bottom, left, I can set that, but we want to do all sides the same. So the width here is going to be thin. The style is going to be solid. And the color, we're going to pick a dark gray color. So you get to pick an option here and then just hit enter once you've done that. Now if I move away and I look at my image, and if I click outside of it, I'm going to get a better view of it. If I'm clicked here, I see the bounding box of the image being selected. So click outside of it so that you can actually see the actual border. Again, we can go ahead and look at it at different sizes. Okay, we can see that border still applied there. Because we defined it at global, it trickles down into tablet and to desktop. We are going to add horizontal and vertical space. Now I'm going to go against the book just a little bit in number 2. In number 2, it has you specify 10 pixels for all sides. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you why I suggest you do it a little differently. So here I will put in and click in the middle. That's going to, once I set one of these, it's going to link all of them together. So I'll put in, gotta get my cursor in the right spot, 10 pixels. So I type that in, I get 10 pixels on all sides. Now you can see the adjustment here. Pushed it down 10 pixels, pushed it in from the left 10 pixels, pushed it away, our text away 10 pixels, and then pushed it down here at the bottom 10 pixels. Now I'm going to jump back to the mobile view, and I just want you to see that you can see how it pushes it over. So in this case, I don't think that we should have a left margin, okay, and I don't necessarily think that we should even have a top. So with that said, I am going to unlink these, and I'm going to trash this one, and I'm going to trash this one. So now I only have it on the right and the left, so the image is not pushed over, it's not pushed down, and when I look at it in my desktop or my tablet view, it still looks professional in that way. So either way is acceptable as far as grading is concerned on your assignments. Just wanted to show you that we could make that a little bit better. Okay, edit image settings on page 18. Select the Clubhouse image and then use your properties inspector. So here I have the default editor as Photoshop. If you had Fireworks, that possibly were there. Edit image settings is where we want to go, and this allows us to do a preset, and they want us to do JPEG for continuous tones. This would allow you to adjust the quality. And as I'm adjusting that quality, you can actually see that I'm losing quality over here. So let me drag it back to 100, more clear. As I come down, start to lose clarity. When we take the quality down, we're reducing file size. Because you can see if I take it down here, I'm getting down to 7K, but now I have a blurry image, and that's probably not what I want. As I increase it, even at 91, I'm still at 24K. So, you know, with this one, 24K is not that big, so I would leave it probably at 100. Okay, so you're going to exclude step number 5 on page 18 because we no longer have to do the save option. And then we're just going to update the alternate text. We're going to give it more information. So this one gives us the name of the business. So it is the Striped Umbrella Clubhouse. And then this time I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste them, put it over here as well. It's a good idea to put your keywords in here. So when you're working with Coffee Shop, add those keywords in that you put in your keywords meta tag. You know, describing the products that you're trying to get people to find you for. There's a little bit more information about the title tag on the bottom of page 19 in that box. Inserting a background image and performing site maintenance. So we can insert a background image on a web page. Just make sure that background image actually fits, depending on what kind of image you're working with. And so background images will start in the leftmost corner up in the top, and they continue to tile across. So you need to make sure that your image is appropriate if you're going to use a background image. And that's what this is talked about, is tiled. You can also use background images for some sections of your page and a solid color background for other sections. So it doesn't just have to be just the background of the entire page. It could be on a particular box within your page. So here's an example. This does look like an image. It also looks kind of like a gradient, but I can see the little stars in here. And so this is something that maybe was created with a gradient and then the stars were added, that type of thing. But that's very subtle. It doesn't distract away from the content of the web page. To avoid accumulating unnecessary files, it's a good idea to look at an image first before you place it on the page and then copy it to the assets folder. Removing an image from a web page does not remove it from the assets folder in the local site. So I say assets folder. Okay, so we're coming back to this, the assets folder here. So that's the site maintenance part of it. So if you have an image in here that you're not using and you probably don't unnecessarily want to push it to the server. That's very different from the assets panel. Okay, so they're referring to the assets folder there. If you're going to download an image, and we're going to do this for Coffee Shop, it's a good idea to save an original unedited copy of that image. And then once you edit it, save it as a different file name. So you always have a backup to go to. With monitors today that display millions of colors, you're not as limited with the number of colors you can use. You may choose to select any color you feel fits the website design and accessibility standards. Years back we used to worry about web safe colors, and we don't do that so much anymore. You can use the eyedropper tool in the color picker to pick up a color from a page element, such as the background of an image. If you're designing pages that will be displayed on a web device such as a mobile phone, be aware that many of these devices have more limited color displays, and in these cases it might be wise just to stick to standard colors. So again, testing comes into play. So let's look at pages 22 through 25. So we're going to insert a background image, and it's called water. Let me go ahead and save all here. So through the File menu, not the Modify menu, we're going to go to Page Properties. And then we are going to adjust the appearance through CSS. So here is the background color that we could work with. And we have background image here, so we're going to browse to our data files. And we're working with water.jpg. Now, since I'm inserting it through page properties, it's only going to adjust the background of just the About Us page. So click OK. So here's our water JPEG. You can kind of see the tiling, and that's not a good image to work with in my opinion, because a larger display you're going to be able to see that visual line. Let's jump over to the spa page just to show you that the spa page does not have water.jpg. When I look at the CSS Designers panel for the About Us page, I now see that I have a style. So remember back in chapter 3, or maybe it was chapter 2, we had the headings.css file. And so it's the same concept here. Since I went through File, Page Properties, it only set it for that particular page. So now I want to take this and I want to drag it in and drop it on SU Styles so that it will apply to more than just that page. And since I no longer have any page styles here, I'm going to click minus on that style. So now when I look at SPA, SPA now has that background as well. So that was pages 22 and 23 and 24. So it says edit the background image selector. So we're going to jump back to About Us. Doesn't really matter what page you're on. SU Styles, Global, and then we're going to go to Header Div. So this one we're on background. And here is the background repeat. So header div is this right here. So if I look at header div, this is everything. So what they're saying here is if we have additional resolution, let's go ahead and repeat that image. Okay, so in my opinion, I wouldn't do that. With Blooms and TripSmart, it doesn't work as well. But with this one it does, because the beginning of this image has a star in the beginning of a shell. And so this one works pretty well. It doesn't always work well with every image. So they want us to do repeat X. So I would just change here to repeat X. Now look, when we go back to none, you can see the white space. When I click on repeat X, it starts to repeat the beginning of the image, which happens to be this very beginning here. So again, it works well for this one. I don't believe that it works well for Blooms. TripSmart, it might. Adding graphic enhancements. So if I have an image and I want to just show a thumbnail of it, I'll create a smaller version of that image, and then I can click on it and show the larger version. You can also link from one image to a second image that incorporates the first image. So we will do that, and then let's talk about favicons first, and then we'll practice. So favicon is that little icon up in the corner. Here's that little icon right there for Blackboard. That's a favicon. So in order to incorporate the favicon, we have to put some code in our pages. So here's another example, ed for ed.gov. And now we'll look at pages 28 and 29. So first we're going to add that thumbnail to the About Us page. So coming down, we're going to enter down into the blank section here. We're going to insert a new image called map. So small, map small, JPEG. And I actually think there's supposed to be some text above it too. So select the map below to view a larger image. Okay, so we'll select the image, and then we can create a link. So in your Properties Inspector, I can create a link to that larger image. So I'm going to navigate to my data files again. And grab the map large. So now when I click on this image, it's actually going to open up a larger view of the map. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it. So in a browser, click on the image, opens up the larger view. Click on the back button. Okay. The next thing is the favicon. So the last thing, actually, before we are completed with chapter 4. So the favicon, you have to insert this on every page through the code. So it's in the head section, and you can put this link right after, or it says right above the title tag. Okay, it doesn't really matter as long as you have it in the head section. So link relationship equal shortcut. It is syntax. Okay, you need to make sure that you do your syntax correctly. Space, hypertext reference, starfish.ico. Okay, so that's the file format for favicons. Type image /x icon. Space / and our bracket. Okay, so we need to first copy starfish.ico to our root folder, okay, so that it can access this. So I'm going to use my File Explorer and where is Starfish? So this is, I'm in chapter 4. Let me see if I can go down a different path. Maybe I actually deleted it accidentally. Oh, you know what? It's not in assets. So if I were to go back here, back to my data files, it's not in assets. It's in the root folder, okay? And that's where we want to store it. So copy, okay? Airplane.ico is going to be for your TripSmart site. Flower is going to be for Bloom. So I'm going to copy this right to the root folder. So if you want to go ahead and copy these other two right to the root folder of their corresponding websites during this step. Oh, I need to go here. Okay, so the root folder, not in the assets folder. Okay, and now if I come back over here and refresh, I now have starfish.ico. Save, and I'll come over here to my browser and refresh, and now here's my Starfish. So one note, you cannot see through real-time preview. Okay, so that's not one way to see your favicon. It does not work. Okay, at least I think it doesn't work. Let's go ahead and test it out. Yep, doesn't work. Okay, so don't use real-time preview. Go ahead and right-click on the file name and open. Now, you want to copy this to every page because you want to have that in every page so that it works correctly. Put it in the same spot on every page. Okay, and we don't have a navigation in here yet, so I would have to open up SPA here, and let's go ahead and do that. And there it is. Okay, so that is chapter 4. Now, have you ever asked the question, why does Amy use Firefox versus Chrome all the time? And here's the reason. Firefox is really friendly to my JavaScript students, and so I've just kind of gotten in the habit to use Firefox all the time. You're very welcome in this class to use Chrome, and so don't feel like you have to be a Firefox user just because you're seeing me use Firefox all the time. Okay, back to this. So in your directions for Blooms, if you look at page 31, you're going to see that we have 2 images. And so let me go ahead and open up Blooms. Oh, no. And this is the plants page. So we have an image here, and we also have an image here. They have 2 different flow properties. So also notice, so I'll come back to this, but we're going to come look back at that font there too. So global, again, float of none. Tablet, float of right. Okay, so that second image here, the 2 roses, is going to have a float of right to it because it's floated. The content, the image is floated to the right of this content here. Now, other thing here, global is going to have our border. Okay, it's also going to have our margins. Okay, so the only thing that needs to be redefined in tablet is the float value. Okay, so border and margins. Now again, you can do all 4 sides on the margin, or you can just do, all 4 sides, or just right and bottom. And you can do that on, now over down here you would be all 4 sides or just left and bottom. It really depends on, is there even content above the image too? So you kind of have to think about it and test it out. Okay, so there's your guide for how you'll set up your float properties. So read through the directions for blooms with patience and in detail. Okay, so here's some modifications to the directions. It says JavaScript error, insert Adobe Edge web font before the head tag. So in number 5 on page 30, if you do not see that Adobe Edge web font, okay, for heading 1, okay, which I believe is Lobster 2, then you need to go to the page that has Lobster 2 on it. And what page would that be? Let's find out. I just need to navigate this to my completed files. Oh, keep clicking on that one. Okay, so if it is not, open the tips page. So remember, we're creating the plants page. So if not, we open up the tips page and we copy this line, this entire line that wraps over 4 lines. Okay, Lobster 2. Okay, so that this heading 1 here displays the way that it needs to display. Okay, I'll be looking for that when I'm correcting. Okay, so make sure that you work with that. If you have any questions on this part right here and it gets a little confusing, just let me know. Remember, we can always connect through Collaborate so that we can maybe clear things up too. Now the guidelines for page 34 for TripSmart are the same as what you see here in this Notepad document. Okay, make sure you add alternate text to every image that you enter in. So back to here, that is this alternate text right here. Now let's look at Coffee Shop. Coffee Shop, you're going to follow the instructions on page 39. So consult your wireframe and decide which page should you create and develop for this chapter. So right now we have a home page. Okay, and we have that home page laid out in the CSS default look of what Striped Umbrella, Blooms, and TripSmart are laid out in. It says plan the page content and make a sketch of your layout. Your sketch should include several images and a background color or image. You do that on your own. I don't need to see a picture of it or anything like that. But the more you plan out your page content, the better your page content comes out. Okay, create the page using the sketch for guidance. Access your images you gathered and place them on the page so that the page matches the sketch you created. Add a background image if you want, an appropriate alternate text for each image. Create rules in your style sheet to position and format your images. So they're right there. Okay, identify any files in the Assets panel that are currently not used in the site. Decide which of them should be removed, then delete, and then of course preview, and when you upload, you want to make sure that you test out your domain to make sure I'm getting your information. Now the checklist you see, that's what you're going to see on every portfolio builder or portfolio project page. And so it's just a checklist for you to go through again. Now, in addition, you're going to use Pixabay.com to find an image for your banners. Okay, and I say 2 banners because when we look at striped umbrella in a phone, we see that we have a different banner versus what we have in full size. Okay, so 2 separate banners, and these are generally the size 250 width, maybe up to 300 by 80 to 100 in height. Tablet desktop, 950 in the width, 120 to even up to 200, 250 will work. Avoid images that have Shutterstock watermark on them, as you usually are not free. Generally, an image size of medium or large will be sufficient enough to crop to your banner sizes. You can use any photo software to edit your images. So here's the caveat to this. If you do not have access to Photoshop or Fireworks, you need to then email me. You still need to go out to Pixabay.com. You need to still find a couple of images, and you will send those images to me, and I will do the editing for you. You need to tell me what text you want me to place on top of them. What's the name of your business? What is the name of your coffee shop? Okay, and then you're going to add that banner for mobile and tablet as a background image through your cs_styles.css file, not as an image on the page. So let's look at Pixabay.com first. So here, maybe I just search on coffee, or maybe I even, further it down. So let's go coffee. Coffee cup, okay. So here are all some images. Again, you want to avoid any ones that up here that say sponsored by. Actually, see, these don't have watermarks on them today. But so you look through, maybe this is an image that you decide to use for your mobile. Okay, so it says free for commercial use. Okay, Creative Commons, that's nice. We'll click on free download, and then again you have to decide. So if I'm going to use this for mobile, this is probably all the bigger I need to go to, and I click on download. Sometimes you'll be presented with a CAPTCHA, and you'll just have to go through that process, and then you will go ahead and save the file down and then edit it if you have that photo editing capability. If not, you need to send images to me with what text you want placed on them, and I will gladly edit them for you. And so then you would have to go ahead and find another image as well. I do step through this process in this video right here, watch video demonstration. I believe it's about 15 minutes long, so you'll want to take that time to go through this to actually see. I will get this announcement up about background size, so that you can go ahead and read through that. And then lastly, we have our chapters 3 and 4 test. So if you have any questions on chapter 4, you just need to contact me. Again, just to reiterate, it's really frustrating for instructors when you go out to correct something and it doesn't work, something's missing, and the student just didn't take the time to email the instructor with that particular question. So that's what we're here for. We're here to expand the knowledge, and so by you asking questions, you expand our knowledge too. So don't ever feel like you're bothering myself or any other instructor by asking that question. So I look forward to those questions coming to me. And again, if you don't have Photoshop or Fireworks, you just need to email me and email me with 2 images, one that you're going to use for a smartphone, one you're going to use for tablet desktop banner, and the text that you would want to be placed on that image itself. Now to actually add that in, you're going to do it through your CS_styles, but I'll use striped umbrella here as an example. You would go and find header_div, and this is in the global section, and this is where you would place. And so I won't do that for you. You'll have to do that on your own. And then you'll scroll down to the tablet section, and you'll find the same thing, header_div, and then this will be the larger image. Okay, so don't place the image on the page as an actual image like this one is. Okay, this is actually a background for header div, and that's how I want it placed. Again, questions, you just need to let me know. I'd be more than happy to help.